Hello and welcome to another Leica review. We are continuing on our buying guide, which is the choosing your Leica camera, and this is the second part of the rangefinder type of cameras that Leica produces, namely Leica M. Now, in the first part, we talked a little bit about the history, the evolution, why Leica M rangefinder cameras being so popular, and what has happened as we step into the digital age. And now we are going to be talking about how that digital age has affected the like M range type of cameras and where their applications are most suitable and how to use it for the best results. Now let's go back to one of the earlier type of rangefinder cameras that was digital, which is the Leica M8. Now we are seeing this technology that continued on as it developed. It got better and better. And what we're seeing is the CCD type of sensor. Now, CCD type of sensor is a kind of sensor that is very different than what is currently being used, which is a CMOS sensor. The CCD type of sensors are not as efficient when it comes to low light performance, yet they render images more in the fashion that we have been accustomed to with analog film. Analog films, as you know, it will have a certain grain pattern that is randomized, which will create a look that is going to have a look of film. And we have been able to differentiate that look from, for example, more of the digital pattern noises that we see in modern images. And the reason we can differentiate is the way the image looks in a film. It looks natural. It does not disturb eyes. Eyes, we seem to associate a certain type of nostalgia with that image. Now, the CCD type of sensors, which are more expensive to produce and are functioning in a very different way, produce a randomized pattern of digital noise. They have more noise, but it is more randomized. So if you are looking to create an image that is going to have a bit of noise and you want it to look more filming, then the analog look will come more handy with the CCD type of sensors. Now, the sad part is that CCD type of sensors, being more expensive and harder to produce and does not give as much profit margin, is the reason why it has disappeared. Because what the camera manufacturers, including Leica, wanted to do is to deliver better performance, and that better performance came with the price. The price was they were going to do away with the CCDs and introduce CMOS. CMOS, of course, performed better on the low light, and more importantly, it gave the option to capture video. Now, you could not do that with the CCD type of sensors because the way the curtain on the camera's system worked and the exposure and all that is a very complicated thing. But what would happen is the way the diodes on the sensor were exposed created CCD to have a very unique look that we call, for example, the look that is most cinematic, most analog look from a digital sensor. So today, if you ask me, I still use my Leica S type of camera that has a CCD type of sensors for creating artistic and fine art images, even though the technology has moved to CMOS. What I do like is creating looks that are going to be unique. And it is for that very reason some of the cameras that were manufactured under Leica M series, which is the rangefinder type of series, were designed to be only sensitive to light and did not have Bayer filter. What that meant is it didn't have a coloring filter, and it was just the luminosity, the light that was that the diodes were exposed to, creating a black and white image. That's why the monochrome became the popular camera in the rangefinder type of cameras. And today, when I look at that, I look at the way those images come, I have a sense of notion that these images are reminiscent of the past eras, what I call the golden age of photography, which is the 1960s and 70s. And those are images are going to be with us for a long period of time. Those images that we see as artistic have their roots in that. And for that very purpose, if you are able to manipulate light, if you are able to shape light, if you are able to create light that is going to shape the way a subject looks in the frame, and be able to control, in essence, the amount of ISO that you are using and keeping it low, will create images that are going to be very, very beautiful. So you're creating an image by reducing the noise, yet it has the character of film. So this is the reason the popularity of M9, M8 continued on for a very long time. And the process of transition began. The transition was from the CCD type of sensors to CMOS. And what we're seeing is a skip. So we didn't go from M9 to M10, we went from M9 to M240. The M240 was a very specific camera. It went out of fashion really fast because Leica decided that it should not be a camera that had video functionality. That's why when you go from the M240 to M10, they took out the video functionality, because they realized anybody who's going to use this camera should only use it for photographic reasons. It is only as a photography camera. In a way, they were saying, we are going to make sure that you don't use it for anything else, including making videos. And we are not going to compete with any other camera manufacturers because we are a unique camera and we produce a unique type of camera that we want only certain number of individuals who have a certain type of desire to use an analog camera. Analog meaning a camera that works with the dials on top and a manual lens setting to capture images. So they kind of limited their market into a smaller contained segment. And of course, considering the price of those cameras being so high, of course, meant that the younger generation could not afford these cameras. So it went on to an older generation who wanted to explore and maybe take it up as a hobby to use these rangefinder type of cameras. The good part, though, is as we move to M240 and M210 and M10, we see this progression into CMOS technology. CMOS technology is very good because it has many advantages over the CCD in terms of rendering images with less noise and being more malleable and more profitable to install in a camera. So in that respect, what has happened with the M240 is, well, it was an experiment. It was an experiment in terms of whether they should put a video functionality, whether how it would perform with the low light circumstances. And what they realized is that you could take photographs, but up to 1600. After that, the noise was too high at 3200 and 6400. Now, some people may disagree, saying, no, we like the digital noise, or it's usable or non-usable. For professional reasons, I ask only one question. If you took an image at 3200 and you hand it to a client and client looked at it and saw so much noise, would he accept that image as an acceptable piece of work? Or would you be sufficiently impressed to say this image would speak sufficiently about my abilities and my skills as a professional to hand it as a finished product? And the answer to me is no. In my point of view, the camera should be used at the lowest ISO setting, which is 100, and we best use up to 800, but beyond that, it should not be used in this kind of setting unless you are able to manipulate the light to keep that ISO level low. And for anyone who uses these rangefinder type of cameras, I have different tutorials on how to use these cameras best with the ISO settings, the shutter functionality, how to use the aperture to create different looks and different images. And that is a total different tutorial, but this is your buying guide. So this is why we're going to specifically speak about the rangefinder type of cameras and give you details about how they will perform. So going on to M240, we are seeing this progression, and the M240 is currently still is available for anyone who wants to purchase it, and I will provide links down below. That is a camera that is going to give you pretty good results. What has happened though is that camera, being what it is, has fallen out of favor for Leica, and as Leica M10 came in, what they did is they took us some of the most beautiful functionality. For example, on the top you had the dial of going from a rapid switch between going from a single shot to continuous shooting with only a click. Now they put that inside the menu, so you are not able to change that rapidly, and that way it's Leica is saying, I dictate how you're going to photograph. You either shoot continuous or you shoot single, and if you're shooting continuous, you're not a photographer that deserves to take the time, because what's happening is saying if you shoot either 5 frames a second, which is the max, or you're going to shoot a single. And what they want you to do is take a single shot. What I say is, if you need to take 5 shots, take the 5 shots. But if you are going to be handicapped by the fact that you're going from a single shot and you need to take 5 shots, and you need to go into your computer menu, which is the menu that's inside the camera, then you are navigating through different menus, and then you're trying to find that part that is going to give you that selection. And then once you select it, you cannot go back until you enter the menu again, make those switches. So for me, that is a big handicap. Again, what is saying is a statement by Leica: take your time, take a single shot, take 1 frame at a time. For me, if I want to take 3 shots, 5 shots, it should be up to me, and it should be selectable. But it is what it is. So what has happened is that Leica has introduced Leica M10, 24 megapixels. It's a Maestro 2 processor. It is good. What has happened between the M240 and the M10 is an upgrade in the technology of noise reduction. So it is an upgraded version of the software. So in essence, what it's doing is delivering a higher quality image through the noise reduction software. Basically, all other things being equal, it's relatively the same sensor. The difference is the way it is processed. So if you are going to have to use a camera like the M10, you know that you can shoot it at 3200, get pretty good results. You can shoot it at 6400 ISO. You're still gonna get possibly usable images. For me, the difference of going from 1600 to 3200 in terms of image quality is not sufficiently warranted to go from purchasing an M240, which sells about a third of the price of a Leica M10, and purchasing a Leica M10. If price is not an issue, I would say go with the Leica M10. By the way, I have both of these cameras and I use it for different multiple applications. It is what I like to choose. For example, if I'm going out during the day, if I don't need the ISO settings to be pushed high, if I'm going to shoot it at daylight, by all means, I choose the M240. Because why? Because I can use that camera to even capture video. I can use it for different applications without having to switch from going from single shot to multiple shots. And it can be used as a backup camera to M10 if you decide to take the M10. Personally, I like to take 1 camera, 2 lenses, and that's it. And oftentimes I go with 1 lens because I already pre-plan what I'm going to photograph. So this is something to consider. This is something to pay attention to. And if you're going to purchase Leica M10, realize that Leica M10 is a camera that is designed with the idea that you know how to use a camera, you know how to use a lens, and you know how to focus with a rangefinder. What people miss out is the fact that they go and buy a rangefinder camera and then they try to figure out how to use it. What needs to be done is you buy the camera if you want, or you take a course, you take a workshop, which we have many workshops, or you can go to any other workshop. Doesn't matter. You learn how to use the camera, and then you invest in buying the right lens, buying the other things that you go with the camera. But if you are not intending to pay for classes and invest just as much as you do for the camera into learning it, then you are wasting your time. So if you spend $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 purchasing the camera, remember that is the amount of money that you need to put in to learn this process. That means going to workshops, taking multiple classes, attending multiple scenarios where you're going to be able to improve your skills and be mentored into becoming a masterful photographer using a rangefinder camera. We could talk more in depth about these factors, these things, which I mentioned in my other videos. I'll provide some links for that. But if you're looking to buy the Leica M10, the M240, I provided those links down below. Now, in our next review, we are going to be talking about the mirrorless cameras, which is going to be Leica SL, and I will give you details about why that camera is specific for certain uses, and we go into more depths about it, and you can make your choices on which camera to buy, an informed decision. So I thank you for watching, and I'll see you in our next review.